Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're with us today. Welcome to another episode of Writer's Chat. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm here with Norma Poor and Melissa Stroh, and Melissa is going to introduce our very special guest and topic for today.
Good morning, everyone. We're so glad that you're here with us today. And I have the privilege of introducing one of our very own special friends and guests, Jo Massaro. And she's going to be sharing with us today about her unique writing journey. For those who may not know Jo, I'm going to give you a little bit about her and her bio. Jo Massaro is a Christian speaker, writer, and author. She is the founder of Jo Massaro Ministries, a Christian organization that aims to empower people through her speaking and writing. She has interviewed many authors, and you can view them on her website and YouTube channel. She is also the founder of In Their Hands, Inc., a nonprofit organization dedicated to children's literacy. She will be co-hosting a podcast called In the Midst of the Journey, debuting in the fall of 2024. And she is the proud mama to a new rescue dog, Bella. And you can find out more about her on her website, jomassaroministries.com and intheirhands.net. And as a fun aside, that's what today's topic is called, In the Midst of the Journey. So, Jo, we're excited to hear from you today, and I'll just let you take it away.
All right. First of all, thank you so much. I can't begin to tell you how much Writers Chat and the friendships and the just the growth and the it's okay to be where you are, which I've always loved about this, whether you are starting new or you are someone so experienced like many of you on, that I have just felt this wonderful community. So thank you so much for that. Wow, today is kind of exciting for me because I am going to be sharing my screen and talking about, and I'm going to, I guess I'll have to leave it like that. Yeah, so in the midst of the journey, oh my. So for me, and again, this is, as Melissa had said, this is going to be the title of the podcast coming up in the fall. But this photo that you see right there, I'm originally from New York, and in 2014, I came multiple times to visit our daughter and son-in-law out here. And we went to the amazing children's zoo. I say children's zoo, but it is like I'm the biggest kid when I'm there. And I took this photo, and when I took it, I said, you know, Lord, I really feel like you have something in this photo. And now we're in 2024, and he brought that back up to me last year and said, this is what I want you to do. So I want you to remember that because I'll talk about it at the end. So in my journey, searching for love in all the wrong places, it's sure a familiar song, but it is something that has shaped my life to be who it is today. But most important, I want to show you a few pictures of somebody who's very important in our lives. And this is our new rescue dog, Bella. And this is Dominic, my husband. And as you can see, she is with us 2.5 weeks. And she has brought such joy into our lives. This is her, as you can see here. She is watching the Outdoor Channel with Dom, and she loves to watch it with him. And she'll just hang out and look at the deer and the bears, and she'll be barking and wanting to go after them as well. And then the last one of Bella is this. Is it my chair or is it Bella's? Because the minute I get up or Dom gets up off of his chair, she goes right for it. So as you can tell, she is the queen of the house right now. But she was actually from Kentucky and was in, oops, somebody's behind me, Dom. You can't come in here right now. Okay. And that's my husband, Dom. And so she was from Kentucky and came up from there to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And she was in foster since June of last year. So she was in foster for a long time. And nobody wanted to take her. So we were just honestly so blessed to have her. And she is just the sweetest thing and has so changed our lives. But I'd like to share a little bit about me first. This is the only baby photo that there is of me. And as you can see, I just love the diaper and the huge safety pin. And that is me, but this is where I grew up. I lived on Hunts Point in the Bronx. And when you look at these photos, you can see these are what's called row houses. And we were up on the 6th floor. And a lot of our family lived on that street. And this is how we had fun in the summer. These are some photos that a neighbor took of us with some other children on the street. And we stayed cool this way and played hopscotch and all kinds of different things out there. That was our playground growing up. And we just loved it. I mean, we thought we were like the richest kids in the world, but actually we were pretty poor at the time. I'm actually named after my grandmother, Josephine, who many years ago got on a boat with some family members, a ship, and traveled from Italy went through Ellis Island and came into this wonderful country that I have such a great love for. So proud to be a US citizen. And they came to a place called Schenectady, New York, and had a farm and had a garage and did all kinds of things, huge garden. And she fed many people and took care of all of her 6 children. And then one of the uncles who owned it bet it in a gambling game, and they lost everything. And that is how we ended up down in the city on Hunts Point in the Bronx. And, you know, there's J-Lo from the Bronx. Well, Dom calls me Josie from the Bronx. And so I kind of picked up that name, and he laughs when he says it. So this is actually my grandmother as well. You can see her here, and my grandfather, Nicholas, and their wedding party. But the story is, there's always a story in families, is there not? Is that one of the guys behind her was the guy that she was really in love with. And everybody wonders who that was, but nobody ever found out. And my mom and my dad, my mom Pearl and my father Anthony, he's 1st generation born here in this country. And I am 2nd generation. So again, just so proud to be here. But the story really starts when I was young, and I had a dream, and God was beginning to show me where I was in Africa. And I was with all the animals and with children. And I loved that and began to grow up in that as a young girl in a Catholic Italian family, of course. And, but I kind of walked away from that and married very young and had 5 children. And this is me. I know someone said it doesn't look like you, but that is me. And this is my daughter, Victoria, and my son, Jason. And this little guy this picture was taken a few months before he had passed away. He was injured in an accident and died the day before his 2nd birthday. And what happened during that time began to definitely take a huge shift in my life. When my cousin Judy, who I love so much, brought me to know Jesus. And that began this whole new journey that I'll talk about. But what nobody knew, and I also preface this with, because I'll mention this, but it is something that someone may have gone through. And believe me, I don't say what I'm about to say very lightly. But I had my daughter, Diana, Victoria, and my son, Jason, and became pregnant again. And my first husband did not want another child, and I ended up getting a divorce. But not a divorce, an abortion, sorry. You can tell that's a little emotional for me still to this day. And that was in 1973. And 9 months later, my son dies in an accident. And this little sweet boy, who I thought we would, grow up together, I thought God had basically taken him because of the abortion. And I did not know God then, having grown up in a way of God was a very vengeful God. That is what I thought of God then. And nothing about, the love that he had for me and the relationship that I have today. But that is what happened in my life. And this is me. I love this photo because it shows so much of who I really was at the time. And this is my daughter, Ryan, when she was just born, and my 5th child. And after that, my first marriage began to break up because after, you can see these are my children, my daughter Diana, who was born first, and then Victoria. And then there was my son Jason in the middle. And then after he passed away, we had our son Clinton and our daughter Ryan. And just this photo is kind of old because these two are in their 50s right now. And they're in their 40s, and so proud of them. I have to tell you that all that life had brought us when they were growing up, which was such a difficult time, but even times of wanting for me to commit suicide. But God had a plan that I never would have thought would have ever happened in my life. And so this is what sits in our backyard for our son, Jason. I am obviously married for the second time with my husband, Dominic. And this lights up every day. And it's a reminder of his sweet little boy. And we have a scholarship at a college that we all went to in his name as well. So even in the course of that loss in 1974, he is still a strong influence in our lives today. This is me on the left. I ran and did Iron Women competitions, and this is a group of women that I did a whole group with, and we took first place. But yes, this is me still. I still love my jeans today, I have to tell you, and will still wear them, and I'm the happiest in them. But I was searching. I was so searching during this time because of so much pain and so much hurt. And I look for it in relationships. I look for it in pleasing people. I was living in depression a lot and really good at hiding it. And after I met my husband, Dominic, and in 1992, we were married and we started a nonprofit when we lived in New York. And God spoke to us, actually to my husband in a dream. And he woke up and he said, you know, God spoke to me to start a nonprofit and to work in the area of HIV and AIDS. And I have to tell you, my first reaction was, and I remember this is 1992, my first reaction was, are you sure that that was God? You know, I don't know if that's really him speaking, but it began to become a dream that became a reality. And we worked in that area from 1992 until this moment. And I don't put a sound effect in this because of the fact that if you've ever lived through anything like this, it's kind of scary. But in November of 2007, I was involved in a very severe car accident and had a traumatic brain injury. And what you see on that screen is kind of like how my brain was feeling. I was in a coma for a while, and when I woke up, I recognized Dominic, my husband, and just said, one more day, Lord. And I lost my ability to drive, to read. I really couldn't write very well. The English language I could speak, but if I had, I worked as a paralegal for many years and did research and wrote all kinds of, intense documents. And but I lost all of that. I lost it, and I couldn't remember times with my children. Different times when my daughter would say, Mom, do you remember this? And it would be like, no, I don't remember it. And then one day in 2012, and I can't tell you that I remember when it was because I don't, but I remember what happened. My husband was working and I put on some worship music. I remember doing that. And as I was worshiping, I remember hearing this voice, which was not audible, but it was, what can I give you, my daughter? And I remember saying out loud, a heart for your people. And I remember crying, but that's all that I remember. And it was like just this brief moment in time. But over the course of the next year, I began to slowly get better. And in 2013, Dominic had a severe injury and almost lost his leg. And I began to just get behind the wheel and drive again. And it was like these shifts happened in my mind during this time. During the time of the head injury, you can see behind me, and I'll show you something in a minute, that things began to look different. Like, this is the scripture that God gave me. Let me move this over. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11, still my scripture today, because I knew that God was still working in my life. And one of the things in these shifts that happened was I began to love Impressionism. You know, the mind is an incredible thing that God has created. And even in the midst of this journey that I was on, my mind kept shifting to different things, and Impressionism became so important to me. I love Monet. I still love him to this day. I love this picture. And it was a time of trying to discover who I really was. God, I would say to him, why are you bringing me? I'm so grateful for it, but why me? Why am I getting healed from the things that have happened to me? And this was not just a physical healing, by the way, because in the midst of all of this, I started to go to a wonderful program called Celebrate Recovery. And my husband, who actually helped start one in upstate New York, would go every Tuesday night. And interestingly enough, I would say, oh, I got the night to myself and I can just hang out and do whatever I want to do, watch some TV. And he would come home and share, not personal stuff, but just share, you know, how awesome God is and what some of the things that, you know, he spoke that night. And I found myself saying, gee, can I go? Can I go with you Tuesday? And I went, and I sat around with some women, and I was just determined not to say a thing. I was not going to share anything that had happened in my life. And then I began to talk about my son's passing and the abortion that I had, and all that God, you know, had brought me through to that point. And I can't begin to tell you how incredible my life began to change over years. And I became a leader in CR. And then Dom and I co-led a life group in the church we were attending back in New York for 5 years. And then one day we come out to Indiana in 2015 to visit again. And while we're here, the longest we had ever stayed was 3 weeks, and that's where we were. And God said, I want you to move from New York to Indiana. And we were like, okay, God. Do you know, after 19 years, we had just finished our home back there. And we had an incredible kitchen. You know, my husband was a professional chef, still is, obviously. And he had this wonderful kitchen. We love to cook. You know, I know everybody, a lot of people, generations love to cook, you know, in an Italian family, we always were cooking. And it was like, okay, God, if this is you, then you will make it happen. And my daughter said to us, why don't you go with a friend of ours and go look at some places? And we did. And in that very same day, we found a place and put an offer on it. And 3 days later, we get a call during my daughter, because she was graduating again from another college. And we get a call saying, yes, they accepted your offer. Now that's Saturday. On Monday, we're heading back to New York, calling a real estate agent we know and saying, we're moving. Can you help us sell our home? And that's the third week of May in 15. And by the end of July, not long afterwards, we had sold our home and moved to Indiana. And how God has moved in our lives since we came here has just been incredible. It was scary. We did not pick up on Celebrate Recovery when we came here because God said it was a time of rest. Get yourself, in Indiana, and just, we joined the church, the chapel, which we still go to in Fort Wayne, which we love so much. And God began to just feed us for a while. And I have to tell you that one of the things that I have learned about myself is, if you will recall this movie, Help, just love this movie. And one of the things that I loved is what she would tell the little girl. And a while ago, I was out and I saw what I'm going to show you on the sidewalk. And this is something that I would look in the mirror and tell myself that let me just move this over, that I am brave, I am strong, I am smart, I am capable, I am honest, I am creative, I am helpful, I am kind, I am loved, and I am important. And I can't begin to tell you, because most of my life, I thought I wasn't. I grew up feeling very depressed, never feeling a lot of love. And it carried over into my life and even into my relationship with God, because I thought, why would God love me? Why would God have a plan for my life, bring me through everything that I have come through, to come to this moment in time? And he reminds me of this. And I just said, okay, God. And I want you to see this. When we were still in New York, I don't know if you've ever heard of a chalk talk. I had to give my testimony. And as I was giving my testimony, a young girl who had never read any about my testimony began to just draw as she heard me speak. And in the midst of this talk that I gave my testimony, God had given me this poem. And it is I Carry Your Heart With Me by E.E. Cummings. And I'm going to read it because it was such an impact upon my life, because to me, it was a love letter from my heart to God. And as you can see, let me just roll this up a little bit. Oops, sorry. Let me go back and find it. There we go. I'm going to move this out of the way. You can see the heart there. And I'll read it. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are, my whole world, my true. And it is you, and it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky, and a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. And that is, as I was speaking about some of the things that I've shared with you today, and the alcohol, which I didn't really talk about, but it became something that I used and to numb the pain. This is the drawing that she came up with. And music was such a big part of my life as well. But many tears, the masks that I'm holding in my hand is a mask just like this. the tears behind the masks we wear. And I became very good at wearing them, very good. And I think one of the things that we do is wear those masks. And if you look at this, you can see that I have shared on this where on my left, where life, when people ask, how are you? Especially when you walk into church, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. Or life is good, or life is perfect, or I'm confident, I'm fantastic, I'm great, no worries. But under that mask, if we really looked at it, we can see many times where we are empty and never good enough, confused, miss who I used to be, broken, afraid, just all the things. If you can imagine right now, your mask and the things that we have said, you have said, when deep down inside are the things that God is really working on us with. You know, I know that depression has been huge in my life. In 2015, or 2019, excuse me, I took a very bad fall here in Indiana, very kind of, falls are what? Freak falls. And I had to have neck surgery, then shoulder surgery, then the tendon tore in my bicep. This is all on the left arm. I am predominantly left-handed. Then my elbow, and then my wrist, and then my hand, and then my elbow and my wrist and my hand again. And those just finished up last year. And in the midst of all of that, God began to speak to me when we first moved here, is you're going to become a writer and an author. And I was like, how could I? I still struggle today in the writer that I used to be as a paralegal to a writer that I am today. It's not always easy for me to find some words. I'm grateful for editing and all the things that I've learned to do. But why a writer at this point in time? Why an author? Nothing that I ever thought that God would bring me to. But was I afraid? Yes. I was afraid to step out. And let me just say again that Writer's Chat has been a great influence in my life. And the people that I met, and I've interviewed over, I would say 60 on video of authors. And I know that Melissa and Johnny are two of the authors that I did. And, but now to do that myself and to step out was very scary. And that book club that I interviewed you guys for started back in New York as just a group of women getting together every month, reading a book and sharing some food. And when I came to Indiana, God said, I want you to start interviewing them, the authors of the books. And I was very scared. I was like, Lord, I'm just a nobody. I just moved to Indiana. And he said, don't worry, because it's not you who's asking, it's me. And in the course of that, there are over 60 on video. So I'm so excited for that. And, sometimes even in our brokenness and even in our fear, God can still use us and have us step out. And I love this scripture, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. Just put this down a little. And this is a photo of some children that I met from Africa. And you can see my hair is very different. I love these older photos because sometimes I look back and I say, oh my gosh, what did I do with my hair? And I met them at the church we were attending. And my heart has been since a young girl to go to Africa. And so I believe that this year or by 2025 that I'll be going. And I'm so excited for that. And look at their faces. And they performed and did such an incredible job. God just blessed my heart so much that day. And he said to not fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And one of the fun things that we did was we went on a trip when we moved here with our daughter and son-in-law to Cancun. And I said to my husband, let's go out on the fishing boat and let's go see if we can catch something. And I was out there with 4 gentlemen, and these 2 guys were our guides, and they were incredible. And we caught massive tunas, which, by the way, they filleted and we brought back with us, which were cooked at a restaurant. We had 10 people with us on that visit. But they said, let's catch some sailfish. And so 3 guys went ahead of me, and then I went, and I actually caught this sailfish. I'm so proud of it because one, I'm left-handed again, and all the spools are set up for right-handers. And so as I'm trying to catch this huge fish, I'm working with my right hand and got the rhythm. God just got the rhythm and going. And this is that beautiful baby that I caught. And at the end, when we were done, when I caught mine, and my husband, Dominic, was about to sit down, the guy up on the top of the boat says, oh, we got to go back. So Dom never got a chance. And I've never lived this down, by the way. He's never gotten a chance to catch one of those. But they measured them, and guess what? Mine was the biggest one. So I was very thrilled. So just, God brought back so many wonderful things to my life. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans, looks like 8:28. I don't have my glasses on, but that's what it looks like. And that's what it is, according to his purpose. And a few years ago, I had a dream, and it was to ask children's authors to read their children's books on video. And in the month of October, I would show a video every day, and if they would give away a copy of their book. And I called it In Their Hands because that's what God gave me. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I sent an email out to someone that most of us, I would say, know very well, Michelle Medlock Adams. And I said, Michelle, this is my dream. What do you think? And this was in an evening, and I'm checking my emails constantly, like every 15 minutes to see if she responded. I go to bed and I'm like, I'm going to check one more time. And she responds and she says, go for it, and I'll be your first author. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. So then I went around and said, okay, children's authors. And every day for those 31 days in October, we did a children's author reading their book on video and giving away a copy of their book with downloadable pages for kids. And I did that for 2 years. And then God said, now I want you to create a nonprofit and work in the area of children's literacy. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Okay, Lord. The one thing you learn, it may be scary, but when God gives you something to do, I always say I want to do it with a spirit of excellence, because my heart, again, in that poem, I carry his heart with me. And so 2 years ago, we started In Their Hands, Inc., a nonprofit here in Fort Wayne. It is to read, lead, and succeed. Our mission is to create a partnership with the community to enhance literacy skills. And our vision is envision a community where all have the opportunity to further their literacy skills and positively affect their world. And one of the things we do are book nooks. And I know that you've seen many with different names on them. This is just a sample of one that you can see. And there are people who have built some really fun ones. Look at this. I love this. This is a photo that I found. And just such great imagination. You could even use a kitchen cabinet. It doesn't matter. Here is my ultimate one that I love. If I could create one, this would be it. I just love it for all different ages and sizes. And we are excited because we just got our plaque, which is available on our website, sponsored by In Their Hands. Take a book, leave a book. And that is going to be up on our website today for people to be able to get. And the first 10 are free. So if you order one, it will be free. And let me just shift this around again so that we can see. And for everything that was written in the past was written to teach us. I love this because the journey that I have been on was to teach me to become a writer, an author, a speaker. And let me tell you something. I was very quiet and shy. It was nothing that I ever thought I would be doing. But when God gives you something to do, I have to tell you that you are equipped, just like Ephesians talks about. And be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. And I love this too. 1 Thessalonians 1:3. We continually remember before our God and Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, and your endurance inspired by hope in our Lord Jesus Christ. And that changed everything for me. In Romans 15:13, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with the hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's what resides in me, the Holy Spirit. And I love this one because Hebrews 12:2, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And this is Dom and I at Indy. We had a blast down there. Dom used to go down all the time with a friend of ours. And I had an opportunity to go and just had a blast. There's nothing like watching it in person. And this is us with our sweaters and our Christmas aprons when we were doing an event. And this is where God has me. This book will be coming out in the fall. The picture will be different, but it's KT Hunter and Winston and their adventures and what God has is bringing them through. It's a series, a middle grade book, historical children's fiction series. And the first time you will learn about it is they go back in time. You will have to read the book to find a little bit more about that. And how they get there, and that they meet Louis Braille and the story that evolves. It is exciting to be able to be part of research, which I love so much. God brought me back from the life of a researcher as a paralegal to the life of an author researching for books. Isn't that just the greatest thing? And in the midst of the journey, I'll bring us back there, is coming in the fall of this year. And myself and Valerie Juliet are going to be the co-hosts, and we will be talking. Initially, we're going to be talking a great deal about some of the things that we have gone through. And I have talked about all of those kind of things, she's had teens in addiction. There's, topics that I have to tell you that we don't always talk about in church sometimes. And things that we want to be able to show where God has brought us. And we will have guest co-hosts and we will do interviews. So keep that in mind. So many things. So it will be, still talking about books and things like that as well, and learning and growing in what God has planned for us. And this is a picture that I love. I kind of envision myself like that. Obviously, I'm not thin like that anymore and not as young, but I enjoy that freedom. Oh my gosh. When I did a talk many years ago at Celebrate Recovery, and I had 2 suitcases with me. And I liken them to being very, very heavy. And I was bending over, holding them. And over the years, as God, because God doesn't just say, "Oh, everything is all okay now." What does He do? Sorry, I'm just plugging in my laptop, which I forgot to do. I don't want it to die on me. He allows, in His timing, as we are ready to handle one thing at a time. And over those years, as those suitcases became lighter and lighter, I was able to lift my arms up and worship God, because the heaviness of all of those things were long gone. And does the devil try to bring up some of those? Oh, yes. Yes. But I know that Jesus has paid the price for them. And these are some of my favorite quotes. I love C.S. Lewis. So God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. Integrity, which is so important. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And here again is Hebrews 12:2. And I'm so grateful for Jesus, for the Jesus who came as the Son of God. And we have celebrated that, and we're going into celebrating Easter and His death. And we're in the Lenten season for many people. I'm just so grateful for all that He did, because without Him, you would not be seeing me today or hearing this or going on this journey of authorship again. I have published some other books that are on Amazon, which I have not even mentioned, and that's okay. The Book Lover's Companion, the second one was out. Love those books. But really, this is most important for me to say today as well. Let your dreams become your wings, because my dreams have become my wings. And as a writer, as an author, and do I feel completely confident in those areas? No. And it's okay, because God is my confidence, and He is my dreams, and He is my wings. And I'm so grateful that He is. And this is my contact information, joemassaroministries.com, my email, and intheirhands.net. I am going to stop sharing for a minute, but I want to pull up the website if I could. I have it up for In Their Hands. If I could just do that. And I am going to share again. So just give me one more minute here, because I wanted you to see. We're not sharing. Okay. Maybe it doesn't want to share again. If it doesn't. Okay, I guess not.
I always have trouble with that too,
Yeah,
Joe. So I
going
don't know
back.
how to
Yes.
help
Okay.
you.
And that's fine. Okay. If you can.
Sometimes if before you select the screen, if you make sure that on your browser it's the last one that you opened, that will make it available right off the bat. I've noticed that helps.
That
You
is
close
what
the
I
other
have.
ones too.
And let's just see if it will work. And if not, it's okay. You can go to it yourself and check it out. There is, and that's fine. There is an opportunity to download a plan for a book nook. Today there will be an opportunity to get your plaque. There are children's books on there. There are adult books on there. There'll be some updated printable things for your children to work with. And there's a story about all of how God put this all together, and just so excited to be able to share in what I believe that God has done in my life, and the journey, in the midst of that journey, all that God has done. So thank you so much. I would love to chat if you guys want to come back and
Yeah. Everyone feel free to pop on and okay, we've got Joe's website in the chat. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa's always so good about, having those links ready and popping them in there. Appreciate that. Hey, Kathy. Joe, your voice is just so soothing and calming as you're speaking. I feel like I need some recordings of you reading so I can fall asleep.
well, hopefully I didn't put anybody to sleep.
No, you weren't putting me to sleep, but it's just like, I mean, you're talking about, some very difficult things, and yet your voice is just so sweet and soothing that it's like we can just kind of go on this journey with you in a very nice way. So, no, I mean, I'm trying to compliment you.
I appreciate it. I get it. Thank you. It's all really all that God has done. If I can say anything, like I said, I should have a couple attempts of suicide. I should not be here.
Oh my gosh.
I should not be able to say all the things that I did today, or to think about, publishing. And so excited to be at that place where God has called me to be. So if I hope that I encouraged you today, because I know that, we all have the stories, we all have the journey, we all have losses. But God is greater than any of those things.
I appreciate that. And I think Writer's Chat I mean, you've been very vulnerable today. And I've seen that, in the chat, people are talking about wearing their masks, and we all do. I mean, we all do. But I think that here you can find, even if not when we're on camera, you don't want to take that mask off. You will find people here that you can take that mask off in front of, and they're just going to love you and accept you and just be your best friend. So, I have to skedaddle, so I love all of you guys. I'm going to go, but Melissa's going to be here. She's doing the recording, and Norma, and they're going to wrap things up. And Joe, thank you for me. Thank you so much for sharing your writing journey with us. This was such a blessing. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Bye. And Joe, I want to piggyback on what Johnny said. What an amazing story of not only what God's done, but your willingness to persevere and listen to God. It's easy to question God and doubt. And I'm not saying that you didn't.
Oh, I did.
But, right? But your faith was strong enough that you allowed him to lead you on this journey instead of just throwing in the towel. And what an amazing, amazing testimony that is real, vulnerable, yet so jam-packed full of encouragement. Well done, Joe. Thank you for sharing with us. And I would venture to say that this will be one that will get watched repeatedly on YouTube. Powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. You've been an amazing blessing today. Anyone have comments or questions for Joe?
Not a whole lot can stop God from doing what he wants to do in you when it's his plan and he gets it done. And in spite of us, in spite of everything, in spite of the world and all the struggles and all, it all gets done in his plan and his time. It's humbling.
Yeah, speaking of God's timing, I thought I would have had my book out like some years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And it wasn't God's timing. I was not where I needed to be. I was not, and I have to tell you, I've had great support. My husband is just an incredible man. He's just supporting me every step of the way. And I am so grateful for that. But you know what? There are times when you question God, am I on this right path? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Depression, I have to wear that mask because I don't want anybody to really see what I'm going through. Because I may be ashamed or embarrassed to say it.
Joe, I'll share with you a visual that I had going through, listening to what you went through. And I'm sure we've all been there somewhere on a hiking trail where somebody has stacked up a tower of rocks. The Old Testament talks about people building those memorials and those things, but each one of those things that you so quickly went through, and I'm sure each one deserves a lot more time, but they're memorials to each step that led you to this point. And I'm a visual person, and I've got to be able to see that. But if we all have those little stack of rocks or monuments or things, good times, bad times, but in private times, that we have to sometimes go back and revisit and look through in order to move ahead. And that's just me sharing a thought while you were going through that.
Thank you so much for that. I do have a visual that I did not show, but and I'm sure you guys have probably seen it over the years, but it's an iceberg, and on the tip of the iceberg, we see the tip, we see what's visible, but we don't see what's under the water, and that goes so deep. And all of those cracks, all of those crevices, all of those pieces that are there that are so hidden and so deep that, like I said, we don't want to show, we don't want to be able to see, or let anybody see that we're vulnerable. What I didn't say, and I will say, is Dom is my third husband, by the way. I was married to my first husband. After our last child was born, we ended up getting divorced. I was married some years later, in that searching for love in all the wrong places. And after 2 months, he left me and moved out while I was at work, because he didn't want to be a father to 5 children. So those are the things. And then I met my husband, Dominic, and boy, was I even scared to think about getting married. And what would people think about me? Here I am, married for the 3rd time. But you know what? God had a plan. And how do we get over it? We have to get over ourselves, in order to be able to follow what God wants. Yes. Yeah.
It reminds me of the study that I've been doing with my youngest son on Jacob. And Ben, you bringing up the topic of monuments left up to remind Jacob's story is so great about that, leaving up the rock at Bethel when God appeared to him. And one of his, you could say arguably one of his lower points, he betrayed his father, stole his brother's blessings. He had been sent out to go away, to be separated from his family. And God showed him in that place that he's still with him. He's still working with him, and he still has a plan for him. And he set up that rock at Bethel and said, here is where God promised me this. This is the place where I worship him. And so I think that's a good thing to remember, is that even in our lowest states, in our places where we feel we can't be used, or that we are weak, God brings about our strengths, and he uses us for his glorious purposes. And something to remember, even as writers today, just what awesome things he can do, the path, the journey he brings us on, and the monuments he erects along the way. And so with that,
It's all his strength. It's all him.
Absolutely. So with that, I think we'll probably kind of close down here. Before we go, just to let everybody know, next week we're going to have Bethany Jett coming back to join us to talk about queries. So be sure to chime in next week and join us live, or to catch the replay for that. Again, Joe, thank you so much for the presentation today, for sharing with us, for sharing your story. It's awesome, and it's really touched me. I know it's touched everybody else here, and I pray that it just goes out and does the same for so many more. And thank you everyone for watching the replay, and for joining us there, as well as those who came live. And we will see you next week, Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern through 12:15. And we'll talk to you then. So bye, everyone.